mate, there's quite a lot of cost.
Yeah.
Like, but even in the
Where are they in this region?
Well, the ones in Oman, then Corsica,
Yeah.
Peru,
Wow.
and then somewhere in Asia.
To get all you and all your stuff out there.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, I need a different bike, and it's expensive, mate.
Okay.
So.
Do you do like CrossFit training anymore, or you just do everything on cycling?
The second option, really, mate. Yeah, because you can't
like do both, and
you can't really do both, mate. Like, I cycled 200 k's yesterday, you know. So
you're just always out here these days. Following you, and it was like the Snapchat days, and you was like doing rants in your cars, and then you'd be in the gym just like busting it out. And now it's just always about the cycling.
It's all cycling,
it's just changed.
I've got a little bit of an extreme mindset.
Yeah.
Yep, it's something different, something that I've never done before, something completely out of my comfort zone. I think that's what makes it super exciting. The goal is super clear, to be the first person to complete 4 ultra cycling races under the Biking Man brand in 1 year, 1,000 kilometers each race on 4 different continents. The physical demands of ultra racing on your body is not normal at all, but nor are the lessons that you learn and the things that you can take away from it. It really is an amazing sport.
Keep it casual.
Keep it casual. Feel nervous again.
So talk about Inner Fight. How did this come about?
In 2004, when I moved back from Australia, we started training and CrossFit was just taking off, and we were playing around with a number of different workouts, and then we kind of realized that CrossFit was a bit bigger and we could share workouts with people all around the world, and we started doing that to a point where actually I had a full stack of workouts in a folder, 2 folders, and one of my friends turned around and said, "Why don't you write a book?" And I said, "Because I don't think people are going to read books, so let's put it online." And we put all those workouts, all the CrossFit workouts that we've been doing from 2 folders onto a website, and that became innerfight.com.
It seems the purpose of the gym goes beyond getting people fit. Did you set out with a greater goal for Inner Fight?
When we set up Inner Fight, I knew that it was more than just about the hour that people spent in the gym. If we could help people feel the effects of that hour they spent in the gym, whether it's in their private life, whether it's in their work life, then the chance of them continuing to work out and getting better in all areas of life obviously goes through the roof. So yes, we started out just training people, but I knew from the start the positive impacts that training would have on various levels for people's lives. So that was really our goal from the start.
You seem to be always working on an endurance challenge of some sort. How did this come about?
When I was younger, I used to run a lot, and my parents used to do triathlons. My mum used to run a lot, and my dad used to run a lot. So endurance has been something that you could say has maybe been in our blood for a long time. And then when I finished playing rugby, someone challenged me to run a marathon. So I ran a marathon on 3 weeks training. And then when I finished that, someone told me that that wasn't a real marathon. And until I'd run an ultra marathon, that's only when I could say that I'd run a marathon. So I started training for ultra marathons, and that's why I'm continuously working on endurance events.
What did you think of the ultra cycling challenge and his attempt at a world record?
I thought it was pretty amazing. It was different from many of the other challenges that he'd done, and it was combining, his passion of cycling, his passion of travel, and then with a record thrown in as a sweetener is pretty cool. So yeah, I thought it was a really good one.
So why does he do these challenges?
I think he always likes having a goal. He always likes challenging himself, and he likes to dedicate all his hard work and training to something. So having a challenge, it gives him some structure to his training and something to focus on.
Do you guys talk about the challenges he chooses before he actually commits to doing them?
Yeah, we do. He, either someone suggests something to him, or he finds something, on the internet or something like that. And if he's keen, he comes home, he tells me about it. Not in a way of seeking permission or anything like that, but just see what my thoughts are and just if I think it's a good idea as well.
Have you ever thought it's not a good idea?
No, not really. Because I think if he's got to the point where he's considered it himself and then actually brings it home to discuss, it's something he's kind of keen on. So, just let him run with it.
So, what inspired you to attempt to set a world record in ultra cycling?
I'd ridden a lot when I was a kid, and then having played rugby for a lot of my life, and then found cycling again later on.
And when I found Biking Man as a brand and these ultra cycling races, I actually looked at them and I thought, that's a challenge so huge that I wanted to try it.
Do you discuss these sorts of challenges with your wife?
I often speak to Holly about different ideas that I'm having, but most of the time I tell her after I've registered for an event. But she's super understanding, and I guess, I don't know, I think it's very difficult sometimes for her, but at the same time, it's something that challenges is something that I want to do, and I think she understands that. But so yes and no.
How would you describe Marcus's commitment to these challenges and training for them?
All in. All in. So once he decides to commit to something, he's super focused. He does the training, he does the research, he does the preparation. So it's all in.
What's your training strategy for the upcoming ultra races?
Because it's cycling and I'd never raced ultra cycling, as I said, I've done a lot of running. I actually got a coach who was a current professional rider. He used to ride with Lance Armstrong, so I had an incredible amount of experience, and just gave him my life, and he told me exactly what to do, which was basically to go and ride my bike as much as possible, as often as possible, for as long as possible, just to adapt to being on the bike, because that's what ultra cycling does and needs. I'm excited about 2018 and the Biking Man Race Series. 4 races on 4 continents. It's going to be a great year.
When you put the phone down, how did you feel?
That's when I started to panic, because the phone call he was very calm and you know, everything like that. And then he said, this is what's happening. You need to pack a bag, you know, and just put it, and I just was going, yep. And then when I hung up, then that's when my mind started to race, because that's when I was like, well, if he's fine, why didn't he call me? Or if he's fine, why didn't Jack put him on the phone? Or, you know, that's what I started thinking. And then I was like, I don't think he is fine.
I was cycling with 4 friends and suddenly a truck came in front of us, which I then hit with my front wheel. Sorry.
Take your time.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not easy to break up shit.
It's quite hard.
Yeah, of course.
It's actually easier when you just tell people to catch me when I'm trying to say it in the right way.
Yeah, no, it's understandable.
Oh. I must have said it about 50,000 times as well.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's different when you are saying it just very casually and it's just reeling off the information. Start with an easy question. Where were you?
Nah, it's all good. I'll get it now. That's my meltdown. Used it. Cool. Is it on? On February the 10th, I was riding with 3 other friends and I was at the front of the group and suddenly a truck was turning and turned into me. I hit it with my front wheel and then was pushed onto a brick wall, which is about 3 meters away, and I hit that wall at 54 kilometers an hour. When I hit it, I then sort of came to on the floor, and initially I just started moving my hands and my feet, and I was like, wow, I can move. So I thought, this can't be that bad. And then I tried to move my arm and I realized that something was quite bad on my shoulder and down my ribs. And then about 2 seconds later, I realized that I couldn't actually breathe, and then blood started coming out of my mouth. And I think that's when I realized that something quite bad had happened. I remember lying on the floor, and it wasn't so much pain, it's like you're really winded and I couldn't breathe. And then when I knew that I'd broken something in my shoulder because I just couldn't move it and it was incredibly painful. And then when the blood started coming out of my mouth, the ability to breathe and my breaths got a lot shallower, the ability to breathe got a lot harder, and that's when I realized that I was probably in a bit of trouble.
So where were you at this point?
We were in the mountains between Sharjah and Kalba on the coast, so we're about 50 to 60 kilometers from any sort of civilization, from any hospital. And as I laid there on the floor, I remember seeing the truck driver walking towards me, and I started trying my best to shout at him and give him a hard time for hitting me. I remember my friend Nick was with me. Jack had gone off there was a police station up the road. Jack had gone off to the police station, and Nick was just tapping me on the shoulder saying, "It's okay, just calm down." And I knew, because he said Jack has gone to get an ambulance, I knew there wasn't an ambulance at the police station, and I knew it'd be quite a long time. So when I'd calmed down a little bit, I was still fighting for my breath. I actually realized that it would be maybe an hour or 2 hours before an ambulance would come. And at that stage, every breath that I took became shallower and it became a lot harder to breathe every time. And I laid there, and I can still remember it, like I could see the truck and I could see past the truck across the road that we'd been cycling on, and I thought to myself, like, what are you going to do? I just couldn't move, and I just thought, right, Nick was saying he'll be here in 20 minutes, we'll be here in 15 minutes, and I just said to myself, all I can do is fight on every single breath that I take. And it was like that because there was so much pain and there was so much trauma sort of through my ribs here and in my lung that every time I tried to breathe, some blood had come out, and it was just I guess it's like when you're drowning, you just can't get any oxygen. And I sort of had to fight like that until the first ambulance came in about 30 minutes. And I was quite excited and quite relieved. Nick said, there's an ambulance here. Jack's brought us an ambulance, and they somehow got me in this ambulance with incredible help from a gentleman that came past named Alex, who was a paramedic. He said, I'm a paramedic, I'm gonna help you get in the ambulance. And he helped us in because the guys that were driving the ambulance were not paramedics. So they thought that my arm could move, but it couldn't. And it was an incredible sense of relief. And Nick tried to turn on the oxygen in the ambulance, and it just kind of went, and there was nothing there. So I was excited that I'd get some oxygen, but then there was nothing. And so Nick went back to saying, it's okay, we're going towards an ambulance. Another ambulance is coming to get us, so we can switch you over, and that'll take about another 20 minutes. When you haven't breathed properly for 20 minutes, half an hour, you're in a lot of trauma, you've just hit a brick wall, another 20 minutes just feels like an absolute lifetime. So I'm laid in the back of this ambulance just trying to try and get some oxygen in. So it was probably the biggest fight I've ever had. But when I laid on the floor, I sort of said to myself, I said, there's two things that can happen. Either you got to fight, or you'll stop breathing and then you'll die. And I thought to myself, wow, if I die, have I achieved everything I wanted to achieve in my life? And I was like, well, actually I'm living a really good life, but I don't want it to stop. So I started trying to fight for every single breath.
What you saw when you arrived at Marcus's bed in ICU?
I mean, as you can imagine, it's an ICU is not a really nice place, and then he's behind a curtain, so you didn't know what you're opening the curtain to. But he was there. He was on the bed. He was rigged up to quite a lot of stuff, but he was conscious, so that was good.
And was it an emotional time?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I was happy because he was lucid and he was conscious. So I think if I went in and he was unconscious, I think I would have panicked a lot more. But yeah, it was really emotional. But I just looked at him and he just looked so relieved to see me that, it was pretty emotional. Yeah.
Morning, guys. Thank you for the kind message. Have an awesome day. No weakness.
A lot of people say that when you're in an accident like that, things are slowed down, things are sped up, and it's really true. In my accident, I was conscious, so I was having to make conscious decisions. Your body goes in, so it was, I was quite scared because I knew that I had a problem and I knew that I needed medical help, but I also knew that I was a long way from medical help, and I knew that it'd be at least an hour and a half, and I just wondered, my mind started to think, do I have enough time? Will I have enough oxygen? My lungs, I thought my lung had been split, which it ended up being split, and I was trying to figure out if I had enough time. And I think in those situations, like that hour and a half was too far away, And if I hadn't have focused right on the moment that I was in, then I would have stopped breathing, because I had to put every ounce of energy into breathing. And yeah, it's pretty scary.
He didn't get too emotional. He was just probably the most emotional he got was when his dad came. Yeah, that's when the floodgates opened. But before that, I think he was pretty good. Like his mum came and his sister came, and he held it together pretty good. But then when his dad walked in, that's when the emotion hit, I think, yeah.
You spent 3 days in ICU. How did you feel?
When they first told me I was going to ICU, I think that was the first time that I realised that I was in a bad situation. By this time I'd had a pipe put into my lungs to take the blood off of my lung. I'd had a catheter put in so I could get rid of urine, and I was like, what? I'm going to ICU. Why do I need to go to ICU? And they'd obviously given me a lot of drugs, so I didn't really know exactly what was going on. But I got to ICU, and after about 2 hours, I think I started to realise that I was not very stable. And I think that's where, when I was in ICU, I think that's the most challenging time, because nobody knows what's going on with your body. Your body starts to recover or starts to get worse. Every 3 or 4 hours they'd come and do an x-ray on me, and I was like, why are they doing an x-ray so often? And nobody has any answers for you. You ask a doctor, like, am I going to be okay? But they don't want to commit. You ask the nurses, am I going to be okay? And can I do this or that? And they don't want to commit. And because I couldn't move, I was just laid there on an angle on the bed and just looking at the walls. And I don't know if you've been in ICU or anyone's been in ICU, but it's just the room, it's noisy, and it's just not a very nice environment. And from what I'd seen on television when I was younger, it's where people don't come out from a lot of the time. So ICU is quite scary.
Do you have any flashbacks and nightmares of the crash?
During the initial stages I was in ICU, I would fall into a sleep and have crazy flashbacks. And I woke up in the ICU screaming, and Holly was next to me and she was like, what's wrong? And I said, no, I'm okay. She was like, why are you screaming? And I thought right there, like, the best thing to do is to try and explain to her what's going on. It's going to be really hard. And she was like just incredible through the whole thing, and she'd sit and she'd listen. And it's very difficult when you've had trauma and then you have a lot of painkillers and essentially drugs to sort of calm things down. You can't really think straight. And I tried to explain to her what was happening. And I think the fact that I explained to her from the start what I was feeling helped me a lot. I remember being transferred to the main ward in City Hospital, and I think that's when it gets real, because you've come from ICU and now this is your new home. But right from the start, when I arrived at my room, there was already people that had come to visit. So I wouldn't say it was a pleasant experience, but having people there, had people with me from like 8 o'clock in the morning till about 10 o'clock at night every single day, was just the best medicine, because when you can't do anything, all your mind is thinking about is doing something. And I started trying to sort of work out when I was in hospital, when I was in ICU, just trying to move my hand, like rotate it. That was like, I'd do 10 rotations like this and I'd be super tired. I'd put it down, I'd sleep for 5 minutes, and I'd wake up and I'd try and do 10 more, because it was just so painful. So to have all these people around when I was in the main ward was just something, it literally blew my mind, like how many people came and just sat with me for hours just talking, and if I'd fall asleep I'd wake up, they'd still be there. So it was I'm 100% sure it's the reason why I recovered so fast, because of the positive energy that all those people brought.
Good morning. I just had a shower. That was amazing. I'm not sure what they did to my hair, but we'll both get over that. And now I'm actually sitting. This is the best day of my life. I feel so much better. I actually managed to get out of the bed almost on my own. Walked to the bathroom in less than 15 minutes, and then they washed me. The nurses are unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. Today's going to be a good day.
What was the support that he received like?
It was really amazing, to be honest. Just people are very kind, and people are very thoughtful, and people just really took the time to not even just go and see Marcus and visit him, and people were sending me messages saying, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I'm fine, like I'm okay. I wasn't hit by a truck." But people were thinking of me, and that was so kind. And there's a lot of really, really good people out there. So it was unbelievable, the amount of people that came to the hospital. People came every day, twice a day. People stayed for hours. People gave up their lunch break. People came before work. It was so amazing.
So how long were you in the main ward for altogether?
I stayed in the main, I think I was in hospital altogether for about 8 days. So I did 2 or 3 days in ICU, and then about 5 days, 6 days in the main ward. And I was 5 days with these pipes in me, so it was really difficult to move. I think one of the highlights and the lowlights of my time in hospital, I was walking with the physio. The physio came in one morning and he said, "Do you want to get up and go for a walk?" And I was just like, what? How can I walk? And he got me out of the bed, and he clipped my blood bag onto one side of his belt, my urine bag onto the other, and he said, "Let's go for a walk." And I was like, this is the best day ever. And we walked around the ward. I think it took us about 20 minutes to go a loop that was less than 30 meters. It was just so slow, but it also reminded me that doesn't matter what's happening as long as you're doing something that's taking you a little bit forward, and that was my first step. So amazing care, and all the nurses were they'd just come in, and just every few hours their energy was just something incredible. And to think that nurses see sick people so often, it was just so lifting that they were so positive.
Marcus, give us a smile. He's up and about. Happy days.
What do you want? Star jumps?
Where are you off to?
I can't do anything. Walking.
Amazing.
I can't do anything. Thank you.
So that was obviously when your rehab program started with
Yeah.
physio. How long into it did you start that?
I started physiotherapy in the hospital the day that I got out of ICU, and I actually thought that was very early, but the physio came in and he said, "Let's try and sit you up in the bed." And my ribs were just cracking. They were broken in 7 places. My scapula was broken as well, and my lungs obviously massively swollen. So when the physio sat me up, all you could feel and hear is cracking all through here, but he said that was fine, and that was kind of the first step. And then you sort of have a break. I did 3 days of quite intense physio in the hospital, and then you have to wait until your body starts to heal itself, because I just couldn't lift further than here because it was cracking the bones a lot. So then when I got out of hospital, I never went back to the physio. I decided to try and manage the process myself. I saw one amazing physio down in Abu Dhabi, and she told me that my scapula was moving quite well, although there was still lots of bits of it. She said my ribs look good, so she said just do what you can. And I think that's some of the best advice that I've had. Like, she gave me a couple of exercises, which I actually did, surprisingly. And then every day I just tried to do something else. So if I could lift this arm to here, because it affected my right side as well. If I could lift this arm to here today, then tomorrow I'd try and lift it to here, try and straighten it. And then stuff like driving a car just with my right hand was also a massive challenge, because you're moving, because I'd broken so many ribs, you're moving the ribs around as well. So it was an interesting challenge figuring out what I could do, but I made a commitment to myself that I would train an hour every day on rehab and also on stuff that actually released some good endorphins. So for the first 2 to 3 weeks I was out of hospital, I did an hour of Tabata intervals every single day. That gets pretty boring. Prior to my accident, I committed with Volvic to go and take part in the Volvic Volcanic Experience, which there was 3 races going on. There was an 85-kilometer race, a 43-kilometer race, and a 20-kilometer race, which is around the Volvic volcanoes. And when I'd had my crash, and then I was thinking about this challenge, the GR20 to do in July, I knew straight away that the date of the Volvic Volcanic Experience was 3 months after my accident, and I just thought it would be a great way to show myself that I could recover, and a great goal. So in May we ran the Volvic Volcanic Experience, 43 kilometers, first marathon I've done for a little while, across the trails. And I guess I did feel some pain in my injuries, but the feeling, and I guess you could say the emotion of having completed a race like that so soon after my accident was just absolutely incredible. I think like every time I felt a little bit of pain in my lungs or in my shoulder, because my shoulder really started to hurt where I'd broken it, I was like, this is nothing compared to what you've done, just keep going. And of course I was trying to run it as fast as I could, so my heart rate's through the roof and I'm just trying to go and go and go. And then there's one picture of me at the end and my eyes are just closed, but my smile is like this, and I'm just like, I didn't know if I wanted to cry, I didn't know if I wanted to fall over, to laugh. Like it was everything, and it was almost for everyone that had supported me as well, and just to be able to prove that you can get knocked down, but you can also get up again.
I mean, it's amazing, you know. It's like he's Wolverine. He's I mean, Volvic were really a huge support for him as well, so he wanted to give something back and he wanted to go and do that, and he did.
Yeah, sweet. So we'll put that esky in here with the water, and then you just press this to go up, and you'll switch. He'll run maybe 20k. So once I told him like what's important is the transitions. He's going to get a lot of footage to make it like a 5 to 10 minute video. Yeah, 4 months after my crash, we did another challenge. So it was quite a good sort of comeback to health, because 3 months after I ran the Volvic Volcanic Experience, which was a marathon. And then a month later, we designed a challenge here in Dubai where we rode our bikes 50 kilometers. We then ran the same 50 kilometers, and we rode our bikes the 50 kilometers again. We did a challenge last year called Into the Darkness, which obviously, as it sounds, means during the night. So we figured this year we needed a challenge that was during the night. So we started that challenge.
Okay. You just want to ride?
I just want to ride.
Yeah,
so.
sweet, bro. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, done. We'll get organised and we'll work together. Okay, cheers, mate.
And then 4 months after his accident, Marcus ran 50k, and rode 50k. Did you think that was a good idea?
For me, it sounds like a dreadful idea. But for him, no. He had awesome people to do it with. Some people dipped in and out and did part thereof. Like, there was people there that achieved immense goals for themselves as well. So I think the whole atmosphere and the all wrapped up was amazing. Yeah, and I think it's brilliant. Yeah.
So then, thinking back to when he just had the accident, and then knowing that now, what you know, like, would you have thought he could ever have done that at the time?
I knew he would be able to, but whether it was going to be 4 months after ICU, no. But I knew he would get back to doing challenges. I knew he'd get back to running and biking and challenging himself. But at the speed that he was able to do it has been nothing short of incredible, I think, anyway.
To be out in the middle of the night, being incredibly physically challenged was something, it's just something quite a unique experience. Every time I do a challenge, you just learn something different about yourself that you can then bring into various areas of your life, which I think is one of the main benefits of doing them.
Eight hours, bang on. Yeah. How was that? Mate, can you grab me a cold water whilst you're over there, please? Sorry. Man.
What you did before this 50, not easy. Wallah. Run 50k and cycle 50k. What, you are machine?
Yes.
We're at 2,200 meters. Snow. Loads of snow up here. Just above 10 degrees. Ooh. These guys up here, we're chasing them down. I'm pretty sure they've got gloves on. There we go. When I was in hospital and I had a little bit of downtime one day, I remembered a link that a friend of mine had sent me to a challenge called the GR20, which is a traverse of Corsica. It's 180 kilometers running or walking, and it had over 10,000 meters of ascent. And I sat there and I read it, and from my hospital bed I was like, well, if I can't ride my bike, I can definitely run. That was just in my mind. So I'm not sure if it was when I was in the hospital or when I just got out, I sent that same link to a couple of friends and just told them to be ready. I think obviously when someone's in the state that I was in, 7 broken ribs, broken scapula, punctured lung, and they send you a challenge that's to cross a whole island with an ascent higher than Mount Everest, they probably didn't take it seriously. So I gave them a week or so, and it was basically within the first 2 to 3 weeks after my accident, I decided that in July we'd run the length of Corsica. Months ago, yesterday, I had my accident, and here I am, stood on top of this mountain. You can do anything you want. Anything. Yes. Here we are, we're nearly at the top. Just through that gap up there. Good morning. I just reached the top of this summit. What a view. We just came over and we saw that. I come from there. And we just saw that. We've done 20k, 4 hours, 2,200 meters tall. I love you, Mum and Dad. when people are sick or when they've had accidents, one, they tell themselves that they're sick, which puts them into a downward spiral. And the second thing is, it's almost like they're on sick leave for a certain amount of time. No, I can't do that yet. No, I can't do that yet. I would look at the class workout every single day and I'll be like, what part of that can I do? And I focus all my energy on what I can do. And then when I could do more of the workout than what I couldn't do, I started working out with people again. So I think that's why I'm 100% sure that's why I was able to recover so fast. But definitely sleep and good nutrition helped me, and because it helps to fix your bones. And I think that's where people probably go wrong when they're sick. And I think a lot of the time people's mindset when they have had, like for the first few days when I was in intensive care, I was thinking, what if it was different? What if we'd have stopped for a cup of coffee? What if? And then I said to myself, I said, there isn't any what ifs in this world. What you have and the fact that you can't move your arm and you can't breathe properly is what you have. Now you have to figure out how to get better. So I never sat around, I never went through any of my recovery thinking, oh, I wish I could do that, I wish I could do that. I only did things and then celebrated that I'd done them. I don't wish I hadn't had the accident, because I know that I can't not have the accident. I never sit and feel sorry. That I just look at it as I've had an incredible experience. I set out in 2018 to set a world record. That record doesn't matter anything to me, because on February the 10th, my world record was breathing. And it's changed my perspective a lot, and I just try and make sure that I'm just going forward with positive energy. And what happened, and the way that I've responded is the way that I've responded. But luckily, it hasn't resulted in any sort of post-traumatic stress, because I've been able to talk about it with a lot of people, and everyone's just had such good energy and been so understanding.
I have other extreme endurance challenges and I will continue to have other extreme endurance challenges because I love doing them. As when I get back to ultra cycling, I'm not sure, but I'll always do stuff like this because I love it. What people can take away from this is that there are the tiniest things you can do and you can actually celebrate them because they're progress. When I started in the hospital, all I could do was move my hand that much, and that was progress. We're always looking for really big wins and for big goals and to set records and to sort of jump as high as we can, but no one remembers that to get those records and to get that biggest jump, you have to start by just moving. And I think that's something that people just forget a lot, and actually that part of the process is actually the process, and it's super enjoyable once you focus on that and don't always focus on the end destination. Yeah, a lot of people are asking me, how long will your recovery take? When I was initially in hospital, and obviously I didn't really know, but I'd said to a few people, I think I'll be able to run quite soon, but the real mark of my return to health would be able to be able to do a ring muscle up, and I managed to do one of those recently. So that's almost 8 months after the crash, and that day I was like, I'm ready again.
I've learned to appreciate what you've got. It's a big thing. To fill your life full of fun and adventure and love, and yeah, just fill it full of the good stuff, because you never know when you're faced with a bit of mortality. And I think my husband's a bit of a legend.